Alright, what's up guys? This is going to be part 3 of the dual overhead cam head swap on Forrest's EJ22T. We just got the timing belt put on. We just use a regular old EJ25D timing belt kit. And so we just made sure we got everything lined up. I had to go over it about a dozen different times to make sure all the cams are in time and everything. If you guys want to look that up, there's information on the internet about, how to time it and everything. He got his coolant lines in, so he just put those in. They were a little bent when they came in the mail, but he moved them around a little bit and got it to fit. So it's looking pretty good. Right now we're gonna torque down the cam sprockets. I think it's supposed to be about 60 foot-pounds or so. So I'm just gonna hold the crank and then torque them down. Crank bolt?
Yeah.
Well, that was a fail. We can't tighten it down until we have like an alternator and a crank pulley on it. So, because it just loosens the crank bolt. So, oh well. So he also got the 2.5D crossover pipe put on with new O-rings, and switched over the sensors, the coolant temp sensors from his old one onto there, and should be good. We also plugged this little guy right here because he's not using that anymore. So
Okay, I went ahead and threw a bunch of stuff on the intake manifold, most of the stuff. So I got my fuel rails, my 550cc injectors, I got the wire harness in here. This is all 2.5D hard lines and actual fuel rails too. The 550s just drop right in. And then I got my 22T throttle body gasket. So you can see where we had that weld added. That's where that port was. So that looks good. I have the 22T idler control valve on here. I got this thing in the mail. This should make it easier to basically just make the intake not collapse under high boost. And then this, my plan is for this to actually be going to this air box that I got. This is from a 2.5D, so it already has the mass airflow sensor that I needed to upgrade to. And it's just a really nice air box, and I'm thinking without all the people call it like the snorkus or whatever inside the fender, it should still sound pretty good, and air filters will be easy to come by. So my goal is to make this basically go right over to this elbow right here. So, but we'll go over that once it's in the car. Threw the timing covers on real quick, but I still need to torque down the cam sprockets. So first I'm gonna torque down the crank pulley so that I can hold the crank pulley while I torque the cam sprockets, because I don't have the special tool to hold it. So this is my trick for loosening or tightening a crank pulley, is take an old belt and tuck it into itself. That way whenever you turn it, it just tightens the belt on itself until you're able to get it like with a torque wrench until it clicks. So let me do that real quick. I realized I just crushed my cam sensor in between the bracket and the block, so I'm gonna pull this bracket back off and find another cam sensor. So all I can see that happened is, well, I mean, it was pinched right here in the corner, like that. So I think it might be okay. There's not an actual pinch mark, there's just a little bit of the insulation that got kind of torn. But it's not all the way through, and the only one I have looks worse, so I think I'll just see if it's okay, and then if I end up not having spark, I'll know why, or not having fuel, I'll know why. So, because obviously if it doesn't have a cam or crank signal, it's not going to send spark or signal, or I mean spark or fuel. So I don't know, I'll find out if it's okay. Now I'm going to reinstall that bracket without crushing anything, and then put the alternator on, and then show you how to torque the crank pulley.
We did the crankshaft pulley to like 145 foot-pounds, and it looks like the cam sprockets are about 60. So we're going to tighten those down now. Well, for some reason the belt jumped a tooth, so we're gonna pop this back off and get that
Fucking
fixed.
pain in the ass. So usually, I think with single cams, you can just hold the crank sprocket with a 22 and torque down the cams. I've never had an issue, but it jumped a tooth on this cam whenever I was trying to tighten it down. So I'm gonna have to get the special tool from work to hold the cam still. I really need to buy one myself, but I'll just borrow it from work sometime in the next few days and hold that down to actually crank it. So what we did was we loosened this pulley a little bit and took this pulley off and just kind of held everything in place, and then gently turned this one with the slack off, just one tooth back, and we confirmed that it's, you know, lined up again still, everything's happy again. So we recounted all the teeth, so it's on there right now. But yeah, don't do that with dual overhead cam apparently. Now I guess. So I got new O-rings. I just put some oil on them, so they just go on here and then it slips into the oil pan. Weeks. Went ahead and cleaned up the garage a little bit, made it less miserable to work in. So I just wanted to show these brackets that I got. These are for a WRX. So I got this bracket and that bracket for the turbo. There's the part number for that one. I don't think this one has the part number on it anymore. And then I got this water pipe for a WRX as well, for the spot where we had the machine shop thread the hole. And it works, with the exception of I used a washer right here in between the head and the bracket. I guess the difference between phase 1 and phase 2 is just a washer's worth of thickness right there, so it still works. Just put a washer there, otherwise it'll cock the banjo bolt at an angle. And then right now we're working on extending the coolant temperature switch, or temperature sender for the ECU wires. So these two wires to go to this side. So we just depend them, and we're soldering up some wires. So this will just extend it over, just keep track of which one's which, and then I took a picture of which wire went in which side of the connector before I took them out. So so we're gonna get those extended, and then hopefully work on wiring up the MSD coil pack to the ignition wiring. So we'll go over which wires go to which in a minute when we're at that point. Soldered up. I fucking hate soldering, by the way. So now that'll reach over there.
So we just got it wrapped up in some electrical tape just to kind of give it some more heat shielding. Now we can plug it in right there. So we're gonna hook up the MSD coil pack, and so to do this, you need a connector from a Dodge Neon, and then you basically just splice it in. You do, what are the colors? Yeah, red on the engine harness to green on this one, so the green one right there, so red to green. The yellow one on right in the center goes to the black wire, and the green one, the blue one goes to blue. So yeah, red to green, yellow to black, and blue to blue, and then that basically will just plug in right there, and that's how you convert to this MSD coil pack. So we got it all soldered up and heat shrinked. We got, so you can see red to green, brown to black, and blue to blue.
Yellow.
Or is this, yeah, yellow to black. I guess it's kind of yellow. It's a little burnt, so.
Yeah, and then just blue to blue.
Yep, and blue to blue. And that converts to your neon connector, so you can use the MSD coil pack, the Pt.3. Supposed to be a pretty good upgrade. And that's about it. So at this point, the motor is ready to go in the car. We got this new clutch, so we got to get it off the engine stand so we can put it on, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Clutch setup that I got. That's the old flywheel. I just have it here for the bolts. So this is an XTD That's the brand XTD. I think it's made by XTD, but it's like their cheap ass brand. It's a stage 2 for a 2006 to 2013 WRX, which is push style, as you can see. And supposedly this clutch will work fine with the older style throwout bearing that comes in pretty much anything from like 1990 up. So this is going to be kind of an experiment as far as how it will work with my cable clutch transmission. According to some people I know online, they say it'll work fine and I'll like it, so I guess I'll just see for myself. But this was fairly cheap. I think it was like how much was it, like 250? Like $250-ish, I don't remember exactly. But I mean, for a full clutch setup with a lightweight flywheel, which this thing is like, I think it's like 13 pounds versus like 20 for the stock one. It's definitely a big difference. I've never really been a fan of a lightweight flywheel, but it came with it, and it was actually cheaper to go that way than resurfacing mine. And this one has a ton of material taken out of it from that ceramic clutch. So I'm just gonna experiment with it and see how it goes.
Yeah, the dowel pin's right there on the side.
Really evenly all the way across. If you tighten one all the way, you'll actually see the teeth stick up in that spot, and that's really bad, and you can have clutch shatter just from doing that. Make sure you can move this thing freely in and out while you're putting it in.
in.
MSD coil pack's pretty tall.
Yeah, it's pretty tall. Hopefully it won't be an issue.
I do think that MSD coil is going to be a challenge because it definitely sticks up higher than both fenders. So I might end up chopping these down a little bit lower as much as I can. Not really sure. So yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I think that's going to be it for this episode. We got the motor mounts all set and everything, got the bell housing all closed up, and good news, the 06 to 13 WRX clutch does work. At least it appears. The pedal feels fucking awesome. It's really stiff, but not too stiff, and it's really smooth with the cable. It's not all jerky or anything. So I'm really happy about that. The whole coil pack situation does suck. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I think I might end up... I'm either going to chop these pegs off, or I'm going to chop part of the coil pack itself, or both. I'm not really sure yet. But in the next episode, we'll figure out what to do with that. Particularly if you have a first gen, this would concern you. Particularly if you have a 2.5D manifold on a first gen, this would concern you. But it might be the same for a 2.2T manifold, I'm not sure. And then also just to, finish up all the wiring and stuff. We'll probably hook up the catch can and the intercooler and actually put the turbo on. I ordered a drain hose for the turbo because I don't want to use coolant heater hose because it'll expand and crack. And I've been there, done that. So I ordered a hose for that. Still going to wait on it. And then we're going to do a bunch of stuff with putting in the Rob Tune ECU and the ignition converter and show you guys how to do that, although I am learning how to do that. So I might have a friend, Ben, come over and give me some tips, but we're just going to kind of figure it out together. So if I get shit wrong, don't blame me. Alright, well, thanks for watching.